Hi folks, I'm here today with Wim Godden, perhaps one of the busiest PHP experts on the planet. Hard to pin down to a workable time slot. Wim, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you.
So you're in Belgium, right?
I'm in Belgium, that's right.
And you're going to make a hop to the U.S. for ZendCOn US here in about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And you've got an interesting tutorial as well as a breakout session. The tutorial is going to be caching and tuning for fun and high scalability. Tell folks a little bit about that. One of the things that we're seeing, and really one of the reasons that I joined Zend about 6 months ago was that after a couple of years with a company that was focused on open web standards, and before that a decade focused on web technology that was provided by a corporate entity. I've really seen this huge perfect storm opportunity for PHP, partly because of the stability of the platform and the breadth of expertise, but in large part because of how internet consumption is changing, moving towards device first, what we call mobile first, but it's phone and tablets, and how PHP is not only an excellent choice if you're building mobile web apps, but it's also an excellent choice if you're building backends to so-called native mobile and tablet apps.
Yeah.
And of course, vertical scalability is really important in those apps, and caching and obviously tuning are key to the success of those sorts of apps. So tell folks just a little bit in that 4-hour tutorial the kinds of things that you're going to teach them.
Yeah. So basically, we start off with a basic site. It'll be a Zen framework site, very basic, very simple. A couple of pages, nothing more than that. And then we start adding bits and pieces of caching, like memcached. And the next phase is we start replacing bits and pieces of the standard LAMP stack. So we start upgrading the Apache and replacing that by other bits and pieces. The goal is, of course, to get every bit of the entire infrastructure to cache better and to become more efficient.
So the cool thing about that is, it's hard in a single sentence title to really explain what a whole talk is, but
Yeah.
you're not just going to be focusing on, here's how you cache this little bit of content, but really on, all the way up to architectural levels, what are the tools that are available, really give folks, a full set of guidance on how to approach improving the performance of their applications through caching and cache-based architectures.
Yeah, the goal is basically to be able to take a site from 5 visitors a day to 5 million without having to rewrite the entire architecture and having to reinstall all your servers. So how can you really move from 5 to 5 million without having to do that?
Right, and I understand you're going to show folks part of the set of tools that you're going to show them is Nginx, which we're really excited about at Zen because of the success and the number of really large-scale sites that are running on Nginx. And starting in 6.1, we added native Nginx support to Zen Server, so that'll be awesome. You're also going to give a talk on the how and why of moving to 5.4. And yeah, geez, is that really necessary? I mean, 5.3 has been around for a long, long, long time. 5.5 is right around the corner.
Well, actually, the talk's been slightly renamed. It's now the why and how of moving to 5.4/5.5. So I've added some stuff for 5.5 in there. So the talk is not just about why you should move. So yes, I will talk about what's new and why is it so interesting to upgrade for all these new features, but also why is it important not to stick to those old versions? And then the tricky part is, of course, how are we going to move like 50 projects from 5.0, 5.1, whatever you're running, to the latest version? How do we know that our code is compatible? So I give a few ways of trying to automate that process and trying to check compatibility with the latest versions.
And that's one of the reasons I was really excited about you submitting that talk in particular, because yes, the stability of PHP means that we could stay and build with the version that we've been on all along, and sometimes that's an easier decision because there are issues when you're going to up level. But but one of the trends that's taking place in that same sort of perfect storm for PHP development that I talked about is an up-leveling of the kind of engineering experience that folks are doing with PHP. So they're doing unit testing, they're doing really object-oriented programming, they're doing continuous integration and continuous deployment with PHP apps, and that's sort of a change from the early days of PHP where we were all sort of fast and furious. So information about not just the whys but also the hows of up-leveling your PHP version is super important.
Yeah, exactly. It's. I mean, for a lot of companies, that's the big barrier. Of course, they want to move, they want to upgrade because they want to have, for example, they want their developers to use namespaces. Otherwise, they can't use the latest frameworks. But they don't know how to upgrade all of their code that's been running for 10 or 12 years or so.
Yeah, you're right. Namespaces is a perfect example of, really, if you're doing really object-oriented programming and you're trying to do it without namespaces, you're really sort of, beating your head against a wall once you get to anything greater than a trivial PHP project.
Yeah, yeah, and the latest frameworks require namespace support. So
right, especially and it's funny their namespaces have been a concept that's been around for a while, but especially now that we're not just using one framework, but we're picking and choosing the best of breed in terms of the third-party software that we want to include in our application. The only way that you can do that is to be able to use namespaces so that you can choose. I want to use framework A with library B, and I don't want to have to do global search and replaces to make it all not conflict together.
Yeah, exactly.
So you do quite a few conferences. So tell folks a little bit. So there are folks we're seeing. We're having record numbers of ZendCON registrations, and so it looks like this is going to be the biggest attended Zen conference ever.
Nice.
And tell folks a little bit about the value, both for you as you as a presenter. Obviously you're an active part of the PHP community, and folks that are developer community oriented participate. But from a business perspective, what's the value of coming to an event and learning that way versus what you could just learn through online?
Oh, I think the biggest value there is what we call the hallway tracks, which I mean, of course, the sessions themselves are very interesting, but sometimes you learn more by talking to people in the hallway and just talking to them over lunch or during the social events during the evening. And that's when you get to meet interesting people, get to meet people who are doing work on technologies that are not even out there yet, that they're still developing on, and that's where you actually get the biggest gain in terms of business perspectives, really.
And I think that's one of the things that the PHP community offers that some other development communities that tend to behave more exclusively don't offer. That you can actually walk up to somebody in the hallway that that you view as sort of a technical celebrity in in the PHP world, and have a conversation with them. And one of the really interesting things about ZendCON, and I'm super excited about it, is the unconference track, where where guys like yourself that have this real world expertise, you might give one of these your breakout session or tutorial, and there might be a bunch of conversation around something specific. So maybe it's specific to hey, I understand the value of caching with Nginx, but I'm interested in this this how you can set it up as a reverse proxy and have Nginx be responsible for some of my load balancing as well. And you can say, okay, let's do an unconference session and go put it on the board, right, sort of spur of the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Unconferences are really great, and they're both available in like standard session, 45-minute sessions. For example, 2 years ago, I did a 20-minute lightning talk during the unconference, and that was great just to introduce like a new idea I had, and you get feedback immediately from developers who are working with that kind of technology every day, and it's great to find out what people are thinking about and what they want to start working on.
Well, that's awesome. I know I'm looking forward to both of your sessions. I'm hoping that they're not going to have me running around so I can actually attend some of them. I'm not going to point people at your blog because I know that you're too busy writing code for customers to blog that often. But we will we will encourage them to read a future guest post on DevZone that I'm sure I'll be able to talk you into doing. But in the meantime, it would be cool for folks to be able to follow you on Twitter. So folks that aren't already doing so should follow WimGTR, say WIMGTR on Twitter.com. And Wim, any last words of wisdom you want to share with prospective ZendCon attendees before we say goodbye?
That's a good question. That's a difficult one. I would say just come there with an open mind. Don't think that you're going to see the regular talks. Try to look outside the box really, and try to discover things that you would normally not be interested in. But you'll discover some bits and pieces of PHP and the entire PHP ecosystem that you'll enjoy a lot.
Awesome. That's right. Just come and hang out with us. Wim, I will look forward to seeing you in 6 short weeks.
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
See you. Bye.